Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Marvel Spider-Man Spectacular Difficulty video walkthrough. This is Wheels Within Wheels, and we're going to be completing it no damage. This is a 14-minute video, guys, so I finally get to talk about the game at length. I'm pretty excited, it has to be said. Because the videos have been so short, I finally get on a tangent and then I have to end them, and then I forget what I wanted to say to begin with. But not in this one, guys. This one we get to focus on. So in the last video, I was talking about the do's and don'ts of the takedowns, and I've got a few more things to add. The first one is, do not rely on the takedowns to save your life, because their cancelability is not good, so you'll get punched. The amount of times I've mashed to do takedown and the prompt wasn't on the screen, so I've been punched, even though I have full focus. In the Arkham games, Batman would literally leap 7 meters across a room, doing 9 backflips, you know, doing every single trapeze known to man, just to get a dude to break their arm, when you didn't even want him to break that dude's arm, but he did it anyway because the controls were so concise. This game isn't like this. You have to really choose your times. If it's not on the screen, you can't do it, which is bullshit, because they can be bang next to you, you can have a full focus bar, and it still doesn't do it. So you need to be aware that, as powerful as the takedowns can be in combat, they are limited, and those limitations can lead to you taking damage, they can lead to you getting killed, they can lead to alarms being set off, it can lead to a lot of bad things. Similarly with combos too, when you're in the middle of a combo, you end it with an execution move, but there are times when it'll just remove the prompt and the game doesn't do it. So it doesn't quite have that measure of fidelity for ending combos in cancelable ways like a character action game would, but it's still useful and it's still worth using. But because this is a long video, guys, and it's pretty much stuff you've already seen me do, and I don't have to talk too much about it just yet, I can talk about the guns, because it's a topic I've been wanting to discuss for a while, and I feel like this is the video to do it. And speaking of, we have snipers. So the snipers in this game are an example of the guns done right, because their job is to deter. Their job is to do damage and deter. You will never usually have too much of an issue with the snipers, because they don't show up too much. When they do, they're very lethal, but that's exactly what they should be, so I find it difficult to have problems with that, because that's what the sniper's point is, right? The only time where the snipers push the boundary of poor taste is during the city when it gets all crazy, and you're swinging to an objective and you instantly get shot from 9 miles away while you're moving at the fastest you can physically move. That's kind of crazy. But fundamentally, I think the snipers are a good example of the guns in this game. A really, really good example. The best example of weapons in this game, I think, is the rocket launcher people. Rocket launcher people are quite rare, but when they turn up, they fire a projectile that does incredible damage. The projectile is slow moving, it has a lot of telegraphing, and it has a very deliberate dodge. If you get hit by a rocket, you deserve to be hit by a rocket, and that's one of the things I really like about them. The normal gun enemy during combat is where the guns fall down. So I made a tweet on Twitter saying that Arkham did guns so right and Spider-Man does guns so wrong. And what I meant by this, for the people that were asking me to elucidate, is that in the Arkham games, the people with guns all shoot at the slowest possible speed they physically can. I don't know why it is that they do this, maybe they've got problems with their brains, but it takes them about 40 minutes to draw their gun, and then when they do, you're gonna die, because it does incredible damage. If you do not punish them in the time it takes them to finish drawing that gun, it's your fault for getting shot. Because it's 100% preventative. You don't need any specific moves, you don't need any specific upgrades, you don't need any skills, any talents, you don't need anything that you have to buy, earn, accrue, or achieve. You just use your own skill and you can get rid of them. And they give you plenty of time. If you don't do that, you get destroyed, and that's how it should work. I'm talking, of course, about combat here, guys. I'm not talking about Predator sections, they're different. I'm talking about when you're fighting and the enemy has a gun. The next area I want to cast some light on is that in Arkham, a lot of the people who had guns had to get them out of boxes. So if you did your job correctly, you could end the fight without them even holding the gun. So these people that could open a gun locker, which then started beeping and gave you massive warning that someone's about to get a very dangerous tool, all of this could be avoided by just beating them up and using your efficiency and playing well. So you can completely circumvent the whole gun issue in that game, and guns became this rarity of, if you let them get out, you deserve to die, which I think is such a graceful way of dealing with it, because Batman is super strong, but he can't take a million dudes shooting him, and nor should he, right? That's just not how the game works. Then you jump forward to Spider-Man. In this game, you start encounters with people shooting at you. And the way to deal with this is to press circle, and when you press circle, he does a dodge and he dodges the bullet. And it's one of those, press the button to dodge kind of scenarios. On top of that, you can just bum rush the guys with guns, get rid of them, and then they're not a problem. Or you can use the plethora of suit abilities and upgrades that enable you to deal specifically with weapons. There's one where you can yank the weapon off them, you can throw the weapon back at them, you can do a whole host of those kind of techniques, or you can use the abilities in the suit that make you bulletproof so the guns don't work. Spider-Man has a lot of tools to deal with its guns, which I really like and I commend Insomniac for, but it doesn't change the fundamental that the guns don't make sense, perform poorly, and are more of an annoyance than a mechanic. And here's why, guys, right? Would you agree with me if I were to say, that a rocket should be more dangerous than a bullet? Because I think they should, right? Then why is it that I never get hit by rockets, but I always get hit by bullets? Like, it seems like a strange thing, right? If the guns worked like the rockets, they would be way more fun to fight against. But as they stand, all they are is a fly constantly buzzing around your head when you're trying to do something, constantly pecking and pecking and pecking at you. And you can just press circle and dodge them, but it kills all momentum, kills all flow, and ruins all the fun. My problem with the guns is that they don't work right and they don't feel well placed. They don't lead to enjoyment in battles. In fact, they ruin battles. There are sections in this game that are ruined by one guy 30 meters away turning up with a gun, because all the other enemies are really interesting and you're doing cool stuff, and then a guy turns up and shoots you. And he shoots you really quickly because it's the hardest difficulty, and they shoot quite fast. But that's not even the beginning of the greater issue with the guns, because I can understand that you might like them, think they're fine, and you might disagree with everything I've just said then. That's perfectly okay. But where you can't disagree with is when they aim at you and they shoot you and you're behind geometry that is a flat wall and you take damage in spite of it. Or when they shoot at you and the bullets miss your player model and they still damage you, even though they never should. Or, my favourite section, where they aim at you, you dodge, and get the slow motion showing you did a perfect evade, and they still hit you. Did it open? How can anybody think that that's okay? And it's not about, oh, you're just crap, or you can beat it, you can get past it, you can still do it. Sure, you can still do it, I've done it, I've done every fight in the campaign without taking damage. Including the one after the helicopter that swings the energy core, which is the worst fight in the game, because it starts with 5 people with guns shooting you. That fight is the only example of why the guns ruin the flow of the game and should be redesigned. They should have worked differently, because they don't complement what Spider-Man does well. And when you watch the comics and when you watch the movies and things like that, I say you watch the comics, when you watch the cartoons, and you read the comics, do you notice all those times where Spider-Man's getting shot 50 fucking times? No, me neither, because he doesn't get shot. Spider-Man's not about being shot. It's about the threat of damage and evading it. And you would think they would have made the evading fun, but it's not. And it's nothing to do with ease of use, guys. A mechanic can be easy to avoid and easy to overcome and still be bad. And that's the argument that I'm trying to put forward here. Just because you can get past the gun sections and you can deal with the gun guys and people should just get better at the game, doesn't mean that they are mechanically interesting, fun, or work as well as they could have worked. And that's what I'm trying to argue. In Arkham, I never have problems with guns in the combat, because they work in such a way that you have the perfect amount of opportunities to deal with them without needing abilities, without needing suit upgrades, without needing to do anything specific other than play the game well. Whereas in Spider-Man, have you ever fought a fight with a bunch of people with guns when you didn't have all those abilities that you're commenting right now can supersede the guns? Because I have. And they can be done, because I've done them. But they weren't fun, because the moment a guy with a gun turns up, it turns the game into a spamming dodge fest of nonsense till you get rid of him. And the way that the spawns work in this game, they like to fill battles with enemies while the fight is happening, and sometimes they telegraph it with doors opening, but other times they just kind of turn up, and it doesn't lead to the best gameplay that it could. Like in this fight right now, the person I just beat up here, he has a gun, Notice how I went for him first. There's a guy that ran on the balcony with a gun, and there's a guy to my right with a gun. There's a guy just jumping down with a gun there who just threw a grenade at me. I love the fact they throw grenades, because it's kind of different, right? He then shot at me, I dodged it, I start firing at him, doing combos, getting rid of him. Because I know, if you don't isolate the guy with the gun, you're going to get hit. That's how it works. You have to deal with the guys with the guns. And this footage right now is me dealing with guys with guns using nothing but the game's abilities. Once again, to reiterate, folks, my argument is not that it's difficult. My argument is not that it cannot be overcome, because it can. You're watching it be overcome. My argument is that it doesn't work as well as it could, and it's not as fun as it could be. Being a superhero is supposed to be fun. That's the reason why when the brutes punch you, and they punch super fast, faster than you punch, it feels like disjointed, because you're fucking Spider-Man and you're getting rocked up by Dr. Dre. Like, it's a weird disconnect. And in Arkham, I never had that disconnect with the guns outside of the Predator moments. In the Predator moments, when you fuck up, the guns become aimbot nightmares, and in those moments it's kind of crazy. But you expect it because it's a stealth section, and Arkham's really rigid. Whereas Batman isn't. Batman's much more amorphous and dynamic. And I just feel like if there were some slight tweaks to the way that they functioned, the game as itself, the quality of life of the game's mechanics would feel much better. I am 100% certain they won't change it though, because judging by the people that I was interacting with on Twitter the other day, the majority of people don't see a problem with it. You know, all of those people I was talking to were strangers to my channel and to what I've done in video games and what I've discussed in many of my videos, so to them it was perfectly acceptable and okay. And it kept coming back to this idea that, you know, I should just play better and things of that nature, which that's not even what the conversation was about, so it's disappointing when that's added to the discussion, because it doesn't really add anything to the discourse. But what do you think about the guns, guys? Do you think that they're as fun as they could be, that they enrich the experience, or do you think that they kill the game flow, and at times they can be fundamentally unfair because they get properties they don't deserve? You know, I'm not here to tell you that this is objective fact. I just think on a fundamental level, the guns could work better. And I feel like if they were closer to the rocket launchers, it would be a much more satisfying experience. Once again though, just to reiterate, because you know I'm going to get that comment, this is not about it being challenging. This is not about me wanting the game to be easier. This is about me wanting the game to be better, because I know it can be. But there it is, guys. There is my my gun rant. That's pretty much the extent of it. I could add more to it, but I don't want to just, you know, repeatedly salt the wound. It's just one of those things. I've got a lot of very passionate opinions on parts of this game, and I want to express them because I feel like they should be expressed. Like, a lot of people are saying that you shouldn't compare this game to Arkham because it's Spider-Man and it's a different game. I feel like that's kind of contrived and a trite sentence, because the game itself does so much that Arkham does. You can literally see the influence. You can literally see that Insomniac is very, very passionate and very appreciative of what the Arkham games did. And so they should be, guys. There's a really good reason why Dead Space is incredibly influenced by Resident Evil 4. It's because Resident Evil 4 changed the face of survival horror. It might not have changed it in the manner that you wanted it to, but it changed gaming forever. And Arkham did the same. Arkham was the superhero game we'd been waiting for a very long time. So to simply say, oh, you shouldn't compare it to Arkham, is like saying you shouldn't compare first-person shooters to Doom on all the first-person shooters that came out after Doom, because Doom changed the world. And that's kind of the argument, right? When you have this formula and this foundation of what makes a great superhero game, you would be stupid not to look at that and say, this is what they got right, this is what we do differently, and this is what we try to get right. And I think that's honestly what Insomniac have tried to do, and for the most, they've done a really, really good job. There are just parts here and there where, because you know Arkham so much, you compare it, and you realise that this is the first Spider-Man game, guys. They were bound to not get everything right. Remember Arkham Asylum? It improved a lot in the next games in a lot of incremental ways, especially mechanically, especially fundamentally. It might not have been the games that you like, because I personally think that Arkham Asylum's the best one as far as game flow goes and game state, but mechanics and nuance, the sequels blew it out of the water, and they will do the same with Spider-Man. It's just right now, this blank slate has some rough edges. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.